So, good afternoon. It's great to have you with us here for our launch webinar for Spaces, Places and Belonging. I'm Jess McCarson. I'm the PI, the project lead on this project, and I'm here with my colleague Jack Butterworth. He'll introduce himself properly in a few slides' time. I just want to do a tiny bit of housekeeping. We are recording this, so if you could keep yourselves on mute, we would be very much obliged to you. There will be an opportunity at the end to ask any questions that you might have about this funding opportunity, and you can ask questions about using our Slido. There's the number you need to put into Slido is listed at the bottom of this slide, and if you hang on a moment or two, it will also appear in the chat. So this will also be available afterwards because you are recording. So if you know anyone who has missed this and wishes to join, you can share that information with them. So let's give this a go. So Spaces, Places and Belonging, a community hub, is a new national programme that we've been running here at the National Archives since January, and we are working in partnership with our colleagues at the Leeds Museums and Galleries, the National Library of Wales and Aberystwyth, and alongside the Community Archives and Heritage Group. This project has been funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, and our intent is that this hub will support inclusive community-led research across the UK's galleries, libraries, archives and museums sector. The grant has come about as part of a £1 million investment from the AHRC, and the way that the grant has been designed is it builds on two pilot projects which ran over the last couple of years across the UK, and we are building on the work that those two projects undertook, and we are very grateful to them for their previous work and for their support as we've started to set this particular funding project up. So the aim of this grant really is to enable and facilitate galleries, libraries, archives and museums and other heritage organisations which don't have independent research organisation status, and that's something that's attained through the UK Research Councils, but essentially working to facilitate, engaging with enabling those organisations to engage in active research around communities that matter to them, that we provide the opportunity for diverse communities and audiences to engage with and drive research within their cultural heritage or collections or historic environments. So that could be the buildings, the objects, the archives that relate to that particular community in that particular place. And our third goal is really to empower those communities to develop networks and sustain networks for wider change within the wider sector. So I'm going to pass over to Jack in a moment, or in fact now, to talk about the 3 areas of grants which are available as part of this grant.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm afraid you've got quite a lot of me over the next 15 minutes or so. My name is Jack Butterworth. I am a white male with brown hair and glasses, and I am the head of the Research, Grants and Academic Engagement Department at the National Archives here in London. And as Jessamy has said, more importantly, this afternoon, I am a co-lead of this wonderful project. So I'm going to talk through the structure of the whole project, and particularly what I'm going to talk through is the structure of our grant programs, because I presume that's why many of you are here. I'm going to give you an outline of each of our 3 grant programs and give you some hints and tips about what we're looking for and how you might go about applying for some funding. And as Jessamy has said, we will have lots of time for a Q&A at the end. So those grant programs are the first of 4 work packages under this wonderful community hub, which we're so lucky to be delivering on behalf of the Arts and Humanities Research Council. And over half of the money that we've been given will go straight out through these 3 programs. It will go directly to you. And I'm going to talk about each of them in a little bit more detail in a while, but we have these 3 programs, the first 2 of which, the Seed Corn Grants and the Bursaries, we are delighted to be opening today. On top of those grant programs, we're doing 3 other things. We have a work package that is built on training, on skills building, on mentoring and network formation. What we want to do is use the money that we have been so kindly given to equip the galleries, libraries, archives, museums, cultural heritage, and community heritage sectors with the skills that you need, that you feel you need, and to build networks that we hope have a really sustainable legacy, including beyond the lifetime of this grant. We're funded at the moment until December 2027. We hope that carries on. But what we're all about is leaving a legacy that we hope will last a long time in the UK's community heritage. Part of that legacy will also be a digital platform. What we want to do is create a space online where training, resources, where the learning from our project can be gathered and can be used, including once the grant has ended, perhaps, and including once the people who've created that learning might have moved on. We want to create something that's useful for a very long time. And finally, we want to evaluate all of the work that we are funding. We want to communicate how diverse and joyful and important for research the UK's community heritage is, and maybe even engage some potential future funders who might support us or who might support you and your work. So what are we talking about? I'm not going to read these three definitions out. You can find them on our website. But I felt it was easiest just to pop these on screen to make it really clear what we're interested in, what the focus of this grant is. We're interested in community heritage. We're interested in community groups. We're interested in how those things are built. We're interested in the relationship between community heritage, community groups, and I suppose our heritage institutions, the galleries and libraries and archives and museums that together make up such an amazing patchwork of heritage across the UK. And because we're funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, we're also interested in research. But we have a very broad definition of what that means. We don't want research to become something that is off-putting to anyone, or something that creates a barrier, or something that is too academic or rarefied or ivory tower. What we're interested is engaging communities, in engaging practitioners, engaging collections in a process of asking questions. And that's really all we mean when we say research. It's a process of asking questions about your heritage, your collections, your networks, your relationships, your places, and your communities. And I should give appropriate credit here to the wonderful folk from National Museums Scotland who came up with the definition of research that you can see on the bottom of that screen, and which we've decided to adopt wholesale in this project. So moving on to the interesting bit, which is how you get your money out of us. We have two programs which are opening today. We are going to award 15 seed cord grants, or at least 15 seed cord grants, I should say. And what these are grants for small projects that help develop community heritage or help develop relationships in community heritage. And as we say, with a high tolerance of risk and failure. We are not going to sit here insisting that absolutely everything works. This is for you to try new things. This is for you to experiment. This is for you to perhaps even fail. There's a very inspiring AHRC project called Fail Space, which I refer to an awful lot. And it's all about accepting that when we're doing research, when we're asking questions, sometimes things go wrong, and that's okay. That's something that's absolutely in our value system. But we have to equip people for when things do. And so as part of that, we are also going to invest at least 25 bursaries for skills development, for training, for mentoring, for shadowing, for placements, or whatever it may be. And I'll explain a bit more about those in a second. Finally, coming next year, we have more substantial project grants, at least 15 again, of up to £30,000. And with this stable of 15 projects, we want to create real impact, change, legacy by bringing together cultural heritage organisations and communities to work on shared priorities wherever they might be in the UK. And if you do the maths on all of that slide and put it together, that becomes a total of at least £550,000 being invested over the next couple of years or so. And I'm now going to delve into each of those grants in a little bit more detail. So let's start off with the bursaries, which are the smallest. These are opening today. I think if you go on our website, you will find the application form is live, so you can apply from right now. They are grants that will give you up to £1,000, but they can be much less. So if you want to find £100 or £150 to address a particular skills issue you might have, that's absolutely fine. These grants are also going to be open all the time. So from now until I think about March 2027, this application form is going to stay open on our website and people can keep coming back and back at it. As long as we've got the money, we will keep looking at your applications. We're going to look at them every quarter or so. So we're going to take the first 3 months tranche in about November, and then we're going to take each 3 months thereafter and look at everything that we've received. They are open to almost anyone. You do not have to be employed by a cultural heritage organisation. You can be an independent practitioner. You can be unwaged. You can be almost anyone. You have to be in the UK and you have to be connected to cultural heritage, connected to community heritage in some way, but it's up to you to define what that looks like. We have very, very broad eligibility criteria, and we can pay these grants both to individuals or to organisations, depending on your preference. There's a bit more detail about eligibility on our website, but we are being as permissive as we can be in who is allowed to apply. And we're also trying to be as permissive as we can be in what these grants will pay for. So they can pay for course workshop fees, they can pay for travel, accommodation, they can pay for mentoring or coaching, they can pay for books, textbooks, learning materials, they can pay for conferences, they can pay for events, they can pay for costs associating with shadowing or placement or work experience. We don't really mind. We are not going to be too prescriptive, though we have lots of ideas of things that might work. What we want is just for you to be able to access learning skills development in a manner that works for you as an individual. And it's up to you to tell us what that looks like in your own context. So, how to get hold of these? There is a very simple application form which is now live on our website. It is only 800 words long. I hope that's not too long for anybody. It asks four simple things. It asks for a summary of the idea that you have for how you might use your bursary. It asks us why you need your bursary. It asks us what change would happen as a result of us funding the particular opportunity that you want to see funded. And it also asks how you might go about sharing the knowledge that you've gained from your training or your shadowing with people in your own context. It might be sharing with your colleagues or sharing with another member of your community group or building a connection between the two. Again, we don't mind. We just want to be persuaded by your ideas. We will mark on a scale of 1 to 5 against each of those three things, and we'll award grants, as I say, every 3 months or so. And we have a wonderful panel which is drawn from all of our partner organisations, Leeds Museums and Galleries, the National Library of Wales, the Community Archives Heritage Group, and ourselves, the National Archives. And that wonderful panel are standing ready to look at these grants and are very excited to see the ideas that they're going to receive. If you get a grant, you'll be paid up front. You will just be given the whole amount straight away. We're not going to fuss around about your cash flow. And if you do get a grant, we are going to ask for some very, very light touch reporting. We do just essentially want to know what you did with the money and what change it created. And we ask for that information so that we can make an argument to future funders that actually it's really important to invest in the skills of people working and people participating and people experiencing UK heritage. So those are our bursary schemes. There is full information on our website. Those are open from right now, so you can start writing application while I'm talking if you wish. Please do start getting those applications in. The next one along, which is also open right now, is our Seed Corner grants. And these are grants of up to £5,000, but again, which can be much less, to support exploratory work, pilot work, trying new approaches, experimenting, testing things in either a cultural heritage or a community heritage context. Like I say, we very much welcome projects of £5,000, but if you want to apply for £500 to do something that's a little bit smaller, that's absolutely fine as well. Because these are a little bit bigger, the application works in a slightly different way. So we've got some very defined application rounds. The first one is opening right now and will close in November. I think that people have about 2.5 months to prepare these applications. And then we will open another one in February of next year and we'll close it in April. So we've got about 2.5 month windows each time, hopefully enough time for you to write the application and build any networks, have the discussions, develop the ideas that you need. These are open to almost any organisation. They are open to galleries, they're open to libraries, archives, and museums, but they're also open to community heritage groups, and that can be however you define yourselves. Where you don't have to be incorporated, you don't have to be a registered charity, you don't have to be anything particular. All we ask is that you are an organisation with, I suppose, a fixed identity, if you will, and a bank account that we can pay you into. Um, and we can pay you for an awful lot of things. Again, are very lucky to be incredibly permissive in what we're able to fund. It can be staff, it can be materials, it can be events, it can be travel, it can be direct payments to members of a community who you need to engage with. It can be digital tools, it can be training, it can be valuation. Importantly, it can also be your overheads. It can be your organizational running costs if you need a little bit of support for that as part of your project as well. We just want to see something that is coherent and which supports your big ideas. So, how to apply for these? Because it's a little bit more money, I'm afraid the application form is a little bit longer, but hopefully not too long. Our application form is about 2,000 words. Again, we're going to ask for a summary of your idea, and then we're asking a set of questions against 4 assessment criteria, basically what the need for your project is, how your project brings together work with communities and different organizations in an inclusive and equitable way, what the impact of your project might be and who its audiences are, and finally, how the project's going to be led and managed and how it's going to run. And we will, again, make an assessment on those 4 things with a brilliant and diverse panel from all of our different organizations. And we'll score that up and we'll award some tranches of funding, probably in about December or January of next year, and then another one next spring. Just like the bursaries, they are paid up front. And just like the bursaries, we are committed to being very light touch in our reporting. The idea of this grant is that we do the work in evaluating and capturing the learning of your projects. We are not asking for you to do a whole load of form filling on top. We want you to be able to do the work that's important and that you're good at. The admin you leave to us. Finally, a sneak preview. These grants are not opening at the moment, but they will be opening in the spring of next year. Building upon the work that we do with our bursaries and with our Sequel grants, we are next year going to open for some much more substantial project grants of up to £30,000 to do some really, I hope, impactful work between communities and heritage that leaves a real legacy. There will be 2 application rounds, one closing in June of 2026 and the other closing in November of 2026. And the only rule here is that we're asking that our project grants demonstrate a partnership between a GLAM, gallery, library, archive, museum organisation and a community group. We want to see those participants, those different kinds of institutions coming together in the context of these projects. But beyond that, again, we can do an awful lot with this money. We can pay for all sorts of different things, exactly as is the case with the Sequel grants. And again, we are very, very flexible. We are very, very open to different kinds of ideas, different kinds of initiatives, and to different kind of priorities. You know, this is about you and your priorities. This is not about us trying to get a particular result out of this. It's about enablement of your priorities wherever you might be in the UK and whatever kind of context you are sitting in. So that is an introduction to our grant. A few more sort of covering notes before the Q&A starts. So alongside the grants, as I mentioned at the start, we are going to be doing a training and development program. Some of this will be open to absolutely everyone. So we're going to be organising some training streams. We're going to be organising some sessions and some workshops and things that absolutely anybody who's involved in this call can access, whether or not they are interested in applying for a grant or whether or not they get some funding for us. Those are going to come on stream next year. We're also going to be organising some specific catch-ups and workshops and networking opportunities for the people we give money to, for our grantees. And we want to, I suppose, create a whole that's greater than the sum of its parts for you not only to be able to work on your own heritage idea in your own context or region, but to be able to build connections with people that might have similar or different experiences in different areas or work with different kinds of collections, because we think that those connections help to strengthen the UK's heritage sector as a whole. So we will be doing our utmost to help build those connections between our grantees. And this is your sort of fair warning now that that will take up a little bit of time. So if you are interested in applying, particularly for a seed corn or a project grant, do bear in mind that there'll be a little bit of time commitment that we might ask for during your project in joining online meetups or perhaps even meeting up in person with other grantees and getting the chance to network and discuss and do some training together. Finally, I have some hints and tips. And I would say in sort of in prefacing these that we want to be a grant program, as I hope has been clear, that wears its values on the outside. We don't want to be a program that's opaque or difficult to understand. We don't want to be inaccessible in any way. We are here not only telling you what we're doing, but why we're doing it in the interest of giving you the best possible chances here. And so I'm going to launch into a little bit of, I suppose, our values and how they might inform a grant application. First of all, our project is called Spaces, Places and Belonging. And that seems like a really broad theme for a community heritage project. It seems like perhaps you could apply almost any kind of idea to that theme. I think you probably could, and I think that's the point. It is deliberately broad. And when we talk about how people create spaces and places and how people form connections to them, that is deliberately to be interpreted in whatever way you might choose to in your own context. It could be that you're interested in a physical place, a borough or a region or a building or a collection. It could be that you're interested in a digital place, that you have a gathering place online. It could be that there's not a place at all, but actually that you have a network or a community that helps promote belonging through heritage, and that's how you want to approach our theme. All we are asking is that you think about how your project, your heritage, helps contribute to your sense of identity and belonging in whatever place you choose to convene, whatever that place might look like. My second hint and tip is not really a hint or a tip, it's more of a sort of disclaimer. I always feel conscious speaking on behalf of the National Archives that perhaps people are sitting there thinking, well, maybe this is only for archives. And I should make it really clear that unlike some of the other funding which the National Archives provides, this is for everybody. This is for galleries, libraries, archives, museums, all sorts of heritage organisations and practitioners, and particularly in the sphere of community heritage. So if you are on this call from any of those contexts, you are most invited to get involved. Hopefully that you would be interested in National Archives in some other ways as well. But I want to make it really clear that actually we are particularly keen on welcoming galleries, libraries, museums, and people from other contexts to access our funding. And that's why we are working with wonderful gallery, library, museum partners in our project. Third hint and tip, whatever it is some of you might be reading this, watching this, thinking, I need a bit of inspiration. It all sounds great, but I don't know quite what a project might look like. And for that, I will direct you towards the two wonderful pilot projects on whose shoulders we are standing. A few years ago, National Museums Scotland and Historic England did two pilots of this work, also funded by the AHRC. And those pilots were very comprehensively written up into some evaluations, which I'm sure Sophie can put in the chat for this meeting. You can look at those pilot projects and you get all sorts of different inspiration about what people did, the wonderful events and outreach and education that happened as funded by those pilots. We are very much standing on their shoulders, as I say, working in this way because of the people that have gone before us, and we're very grateful to those. And if you want to use what happened in those projects as inspiration for your project, please do. There's no better place to go. Finally, you don't need to have done a grant before. A lot of people sat on this call, I hope a lot of people sat on this call might be thinking, well, it sounds good, but a grant application is a bit terrifying. We have designed this process, we have designed our grant applications, we've designed everything we are doing to be as accessible, and flexible and supportive as possible. And I'm going to close. This is my last slide coming up. With just a sort of recap of the ways that we want to be able to support your grant applications to make what can be a little bit of a different or sort of overly formal process something that feels accessible to you, particularly if you're working in a community heritage context. So we are going to do the following things. On our website, you can book for consultations with my wonderful colleague Sophie, who sat to my left in this room. You can book a 30-minute chat where a member of our team will just be able to have a discussion with you about your idea. We're not going to be able to be experts in every single thing that gets brought to us, but we'll be able to give you some support as to whether your idea fits with our program, how you might go about writing the application, any other support you need, accessibility support, for example. All of that can be provided. We are investing in the time being available from our team so that we can support you right from now until the 28th of November or whenever the deadline is, and indeed in every single round of funding thereafter. That time thing is really important. We are committing to giving you time at every stage in the process. So we're opening these grants now, but we're not going to close the window for about another 2.5 months or so. This is so you have time not only to write the thing, but also to form the connections you need, to have the discussions you need, to sit over a weekend with a cup of coffee and think about the idea in the ways that you need. And we're also going to keep giving that time throughout the process. So we're not going to rush you in terms of completing your projects. We're not going to rush you for reporting. We're not going to rush you for anything. We are about creating space for you to do the project at the pace that suits you. The application forms are available online. We can also send them to you as Word documents. We can send them to you in English and we can send them to you in Welsh as well. Please do let us know if there are any language barriers or anything like that that might impede you from applying to a grant from us. If you can just get in touch and let us know how we can support you, we can definitely work on those things. We've also done some quite extensive user testing with the grants, but we want to keep going with that. So if you've got feedback on us, if you say, actually, it'd be a really good idea if this program could do this, or it'd be a really good idea if this application form could do that, please do let us know. And we're going to keep iterating, we're going to keep changing, and we're going to keep acting on the feedback you give us. And we're also going to give feedback to you. So if you submit a grant application to us and you do or you don't receive funding, we absolutely commit to giving you a reason why. We commit to giving you some support. We commit to giving you some scoring, and we commit perhaps to giving you some suggestions for what you might do differently next time. We're not, unfortunately, going to be able to fund every single idea that's sent to us, but we think that being responsible as part of that process is giving as much support as we can, not only to the people that do get the money, but equally to those that don't. If you do get the money, as I've said before, use it for what you want. We are able to be very, very understanding of what costs might look like in a particular context, about what your particular challenges might be. We want to be informed by you as to what these grants should look like. But what we also want to do is make sure that you're not doing too much of the busy work. So if you do get funding for a grant, we're making a commitment here to do some of the legwork in making sure that grant's the best it can be. That includes taking the legwork of some of the evaluation, of communicating, creating impact case studies on your behalf, of creating the digital platform so that we can provide you with resources and guidance. The training package will provide, I hope, some of the skills development that people are looking for. We want to be collaborative, we want to be responsive, we want to work in partnership with everyone who we give money to. This is not just about us writing you a check and then disappearing. We want to really work with you in the ways you want over the course of this program. Because, as I said at the bottom, we are the people who are lucky enough to have this money as part of this grant program, but we are not the experts. You are the experts, and this research, this learning is about learning from you. It's about learning from community heritage, however and wherever it exists across the UK. And we are all tremendously excited about the opportunity to bring some of that together, the opportunity we've been given by the AHRC to bring some of that together in this community hub. That is a bit of a whistle-stop tour through of everything that we're doing, and I'm aware that I've dumped a lot of information your way over the course of the last 20 minutes or so. We are now going to have a Q&A that we have just under an hour for, so plenty of time to get through your questions. If you go to the website Slido, I'm hoping there's a link in the chat, and you hit 3787301, you'll be able to ask us your questions there. And I think some people have probably also put some questions in the chat as well while I've been speaking. So I'm going to let some of my colleagues who are sat to my left moderate that Q&A a little bit, and we'll try and get through as many of your questions as we can. Thank you very much for listening.